Hey, it's great to be with you again today. Have you ever had bad things happen to you in your life? Right? I mean, I think we all do, right? All of us go through times when things are good and times when things are not so good. And it's easy for us to have pity parties and to say, oh, woe is me. I wish this is why me, blah, blah, wah, 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 right? And we have these times when it just stinks and we get down and we feel bad. I'm having some devotions today, and I read the story of Joseph. Joseph comes from a rich family. His dad's awesome. His dad loves him better than his other 10 brothers, right? And he gives him like a really nice jacket and everything, and he gives him all this cool stuff, and the other brothers are jealous. And finally, one day they have enough, and they plot to kill him. Brothers like these, who needs enemies? And so one of the brothers says, nah, let's not kill him. Let's sell him. And so they sell him to the Ishmaelites, which is a clan in the area, and they take him to Egypt. And they sell him to an Egyptian official. His name is Potiphar. And Potiphar puts Joseph to work as a servant. And Joseph works hard and he works his way up. And Potiphar's like, hey, man, everything this guy does turns out perfect. It's awesome. And he elevates him to like the head of his household. Well, Potiphar's wife thought that Joseph was handsome and was like, hey, Joseph. And Joseph's like, hey, you got to get out of here. And he runs away. And Potiphar's wife says he was making some inappropriate advances. And Joseph gets thrown in jail. Now, he's already been sold into slavery by his brothers. Now he's thrown into prison. While he's there, two other guys that work for Pharaoh, a cupbearer and a baker, have dreams. And they say, like, hey, man, what do these dreams mean? And Joseph's like, well, cupbearer, good news. Pharaoh's going to reinstate you to your job. It's going to be awesome. And the baker's like, well, what about me? And Joseph says, hey, man, you're not so lucky, buddy. As a matter of fact, Pharaoh's going to cut your head off. Good luck with that. And it happened. What he predicted of those dreams occurred. And the cupbearer went back to work for Pharaoh. The baker was killed. And 2 years later, the cupbearer remembers when Pharaoh has a dream about this guy, Joseph, in prison. Joseph has been in prison for 2 years. And says to the Pharaoh, hey, you ought to bring this guy up. He can tell you what your dreams mean. Joseph comes up, tells him what the dreams mean. Pharaoh's like, pretty smart cookie, and puts him in charge of all this stuff. And he becomes, after a while, he becomes the second most powerful man in Egypt. Talk about a roller coaster ride, right? Things out of his control happen to him. He gets punished. He gets sold into slavery, thrown in prison, all these things. And then God continues to elevate him into areas where he can use the gifts that God has given him to bless those around him. Now, there's a lot more to Joseph's story, and you ought to check it out. It's in the book of Genesis. But God is constantly at work. And sometimes, even in the midst of our worst days, God is still doing stuff. And just because it looks like nothing is happening doesn't mean that nothing is happening. May God continue to pour out his grace, mercy, and blessings on each and every one of us until we get to meet again. Amen. Amen.